Hey Kelly, it's Yanni here. I saw your message on Facebook and I wanted to drop you a few notes on your new shot. Great to see some new stuff. It's absolutely looking great. And yeah, I just thought I'd hop by, and see if I can maybe, give you a few pointers, see if you like some ideas, and hopefully, make this a little bit more polished. So my first note was really on staging, and one of the things that I think is that, to have the camera actually passing through the legs of the characters, it isn't really working for me just because it obstructs the view of what the character's actually doing, and there's a lot of stuff there that you really don't want to lose. It also doesn't leave clear to me what the attitude of the cops is right now, and it's hard to tell from the feet. Are they, angry and pointing their guns at her? Are they kind of like just standing, in preparation? Are they stunned because she's just shown out of nowhere? That's pretty much the attitude that I say. So I think you can probably sell this better if you keep the same camera move, but just instead of having a low camera through the legs, move the camera up and point down towards her. So you see the top of the shoulders and the head of the cops, and you might even see the hands as well of them pointing. You can actually have a very nice, line where you can see kind of like the guns pointing towards her from different angles, and that'll be fairly cool. But what that'll give you is that the heads will pass down the lower third of frame, and that way you've got the upper half where she's always going to be perfectly in shot, and you'll be able to see the upper body where you've got all those expressions, the arm movements and everything else, and that'll be very clear. So keep your cops on the bottom side of the screen and keep her on the top screen, and a higher camera will give you that. My other note as well is specifically to do with your cut. When you go into your cut, you've got trying to make an intimate moment of her actually going into camera, and the thing is that in your dolly across the screen in the previous shot, you're going from screen right to screen left, and when you come into the next shot, there's a very, very, very small motion which is in the opposite direction. So you around about in frame 160, your camera is still moving in the same way, but then around frame 211 all the way to about 312, it actually veers off in the other direction. So your camera's kind of like doing a small arc, which is really, really, really distracting. Keep the motion of your camera following the same visual continuity that you had in your previous shot, okay? Which is, I'd actually say that you've got, some very, very nice, camera movement over here from right to left. Exaggerate that a little bit more in your next shot and keep the close-up, even though it's pulling into her, keep going from screen from screen right to screen left, the same way that you were doing with the pan, and you can exaggerate that a little bit more. I think maybe in, the other shot you might be able to pan it, tilt the camera down a little bit more and keep it maybe from a bit higher and have her looking up a little bit more, because I get what you're trying to do here, but you've also got a lot of negative space on your right side of frame, so she's lying down and there's a lot of space over here on one side. Composition wise it's okay, but as you're using a very square frame, it's almost better if you punch in a little bit more, get a little bit more of the detail there, so you can you can close up quite a bit more than what you've got right now. So staging wise, out the window. Having a look at your overall performance and your poses. You've got some really nice poses. They're very clear. Some things that I see, in your animation, even on previous shots as well, and I know that this isn't finished, but sometimes, you've got these really staccato motions where it's almost like the hold's just a little bit too strong. I mean, the dropping of the arms is really nice, really clear, but like on frame 23, it's all the way to 29. It looks like the arms are like almost stuck in place like this, and although there's a little bit of drift, it's just too little. Almost like you need to loosen the shoulders up a little bit, because the motion down with the arms, it's reading, but I think you still need a little bit. And also you've got a really, 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 linear motion in frame 37 all the way to frame 39. the dropping of the screen left arm is pretty much straight. Now I know it's not smoothed out or anything else like that, but it's a good moment to actually add in a breakdown there as well. Again, it's a very fast motion, but I think you really need a breakdown at that point there. Going more into your posing in frame 44, when she's like, oh, I screamed, and she's got her hands down like that, clean up that silhouette a little bit more. The arms are kind of like locked in the actual chest, so push them out a little bit. You can get the same expression, because it's not exactly twinning, but if you looked at that pose in silhouette in frame 44, that's almost pretty much the pose that you're going to hold for quite a long time. You're doing a few other gestures like that, it changes a little bit. But I think that, remember your silhouettes. That pose there is strong right now, but it can be a lot stronger. And also the screen right foot, the one that we can just see there, it doesn't look like it's bearing a lot of weight. I think it should be flat on the floor. So in frame 60, if you have a look at it, she's on the tip of her foot. I think that's one of the things that you can actually pull and actually put her firm on the ground, and that will give her a bigger sense of weight. You might have to adjust where the hips are a little bit so that she's still in balance. And then when she comes up into her next pose over here, I won't really talk about facial animation, but she kind of like, goes up and drops her arms. Bit difficult to see what it is that she's doing, but I think you just have to have a look at maybe some of the arcs, because I think that you kind of like are going from frame 55, she's going down, and then she's going into another pose at frame 82, and then she's coming up and swinging to frame 115, and those are kind of like your keys. What I'm losing is pretty much roundabout in the area from frame 55 going into the next pose, which is like 85. You're almost like doing an anticipation again there, and I think that I don't really get what's going on at frame 72. If you have a look at it, she's just kind of like, she was in a pose, she goes into another similar pose, and I think you could almost keep her in that same, pose in the side, to show that intensity, and she's like going, even if it's just dropping the hands, I don't think you need this huge, big motion at that point over there. Let me just hear it with sound for a sec. Yeah, I think you can get away with that because she's just saying Johnny again. I think you can keep, pretty much frame 55, just as, your main pose, and just go into the next pose, 83, 85 pose, where she drops her hands again and she says, Johnny! That is just a drop. You don't need that huge kind of like up and down in between those two parts. Again, that's just my opinion. I love the arm swing, when she's kind of like there. What I don't read a lot, coming into frame 127, is that step back onto the fence. It's so tiny that you can hardly see it. So I'd almost say, restage that a little bit. Move the fence a little bit back, make the step a little bit longer, and on frame, when she starts taking the steps, which is round about frame 130, see if you can actually move her screen left at the same time, so she goes back and screen left like that, so you really notice that change of position, and also that'll help you with the hips and everything else, just to sell that change of weight, because it's such a tiny step that you've got good weight there, but it's just visually it just doesn't look like she's moving backwards enough. Okay, and like the slip of the feet, I'd almost say that when you go into frame 162, which is your cut, I think you could almost have, the feet still settling into the ground as they go under her. I know that some people don't like doing that because it's almost like you cut, if the motion's finished, bam, bam, that's it. But I think that almost for that visual continuity, it's good to actually continue seeing a bit of follow through with the feet, because she's pretty much slipping onto the ground. Boom, 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 boom. She comes down. Yeah. She's got kind of like a little pop, kind of like coming up. which I know is kind of like part of the performance. That's around frame 230. And that little pop there, I don't know. It's something that jumps out of me. I don't know how to actually fix that part, but have a look just on that little pop that she does at frame 230 and see maybe if you can smooth it out, because I'm not sure where the force is coming from that's making her jump up, because I'd almost think that her hips would be locked on the ground, because they're carrying her weight, and I don't think they'd jump up like that. So, moving swiftly on. Another thing that jumps out at me, in the performance is one thing, is that I know she's kind of like disoriented, and she's kind of like looking for questions, not sure where she is, but her eye line at some point, it would be good if she had a little bit of focus on something, because it's really drifting all over the place. So even if she's looking almost like into camera to a degree, at some points, that would really make us connect with her emotions much, 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 much clearer. So if there's one of the cops that's nearby, or even if it's just looking slightly over camera like that, even not directly into camera, but just slightly to a side, when those emotional moments that she's got in her lines come in, I think that'll make the performance a bit stronger as well, because it's like you just feel a bit vacant at some points, because she is looking kind of like mostly to screen right, but there isn't really a fixed place that she's looking at most of the time. Let me just see if anything else jumps out. I'm talking a bit too much. I really like that little detail. She holds her this little motion here of where she holds her shoe at frame 266. It's a nice detail, but I don't think it adds much to the performance, if you know what I mean. Just because it happens so briefly. I like the detail that it happens, and she just does that, but she just like touches it, puts her hand off it really, really, really quickly. It's almost as if if she was going to do that, almost like keep her in that position, maybe shift her weight forward if you want to keep that, or take it out completely. As much as it's a nice little detail, it just happens so rapidly that I think you're missing a chance there. It's almost the same as if she was holding her side, or she just put her hand on her head. If she just did it like that, it loses the intensity of and still talking and still talking and still talking. It's that type of thing that you can do, but it's such a little detail. That it's nice that it's there. And I like the way that she curls up a little bit on frame 314. I think you could curl her up a little bit more, so almost like she her feet come up a little bit, her head go over to a side, and then she just drops down. And I like the ending. I really like those head nods. They go really well with the audio. It's good to actually see all of that. And yeah, I just think that keep it focused on your main poses as well, and don't go too kind of like extreme, especially at the beginning, because you've got a lot of good contrasting moments here. The moments when she's standing up are very, very different from the moments when she's actually on the ground. But I think that this end shot, the second shot that you've got, is very personal, and you'd really want to kind of like keep it really intense. So I think that especially work that camera move. That camera move's going to do it great, just as long as you can get it at the right speed, and also you also make that contact with the eyes. Okay, so thanks very much for putting up with me giving you all of these notes. I hope something helps you out as well, or at least it makes you think of something that will help improve. But it looks great. I'll probably drop by at some point in your PR, but keep posting stuff. It's looking great. Okay, so thanks very much and take care. All right, see you, Kelly. Bye.